I have come to Thailand many times. I don't know. I don't remember exactly the first year I came to Thailand, but mostly it had to do with asbestos issues. At least I can go back 10 years. I think it's more than that. And since then, the people I meet have been saying that, well, Thailand will eventually ban asbestos. We'll start diagnosing asbestos-related disease. But unfortunately, at least for the 10 years that I know of, not much has changed.
Is very bad right now. Thailand has one of the highest rates of per capita usage of asbestos. If you take the tonnage of asbestos imported and used each year and divide it by the population in the country, you get a very high number compared to almost all countries of the world. Thailand and Vietnam are very, very much at the top by that measure. In today's world, the people in the asbestos business know that in order to maintain profitability, they have to minimize the costs of prevention and compensation. That means if they spend a lot of money for industrial ventilation in the factory and for sanitary provisions so that the workers don't walk home with the dust on their clothes and endanger their families, and they put cancer warnings on the product, then the business becomes unprofitable. An industry that knows it's building its fortune in proportion to the number of people that are going to die. And the more business they do, the more people they kill. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I call it a criminal industry. Mm-hmm. And the industry, in order to reduce the costs of prevention, does what it can to keep the public from understanding how dangerous asbestos is. Because once people understand how dangerous asbestos is, it gets banned. Mm-hmm. This has happened all over the world. And this is all, this talk about controlled use of asbestos is just a euphemism for business as usual. It's really, it's a lie. There is no control.
The best solution is for the government to really study the facts, because there is always the struggle between the industry side and the health side. And the health side says that, well, we should stop using asbestos because it's hazardous for health. And the industry side says, well, if you use it safely, you can continue employing people, and the industry makes money, and so it does good for the economy. And it's an endless battle. If you look at what the developed countries did, we had the same struggle. But ultimately, the public health concern or the public health damage that has been caused by using asbestos really overrode, or it overshadowed the economic argument. So countries chose to adopt a ban.
In general, in the world, society, government, many of them understand about the hazard of asbestos, and more than 50 countries already banned. But this time, we gather people from ASEAN countries. We want to focus, and especially for Thailand, that the government announced to have management on the risk of asbestos, especially the demand for banning asbestos in Thailand. So this is important because we will gather information, scientific evidence, and also social evidence to put it together to be the evidence base for the policymaker to make a decision. And we hope that this will be one of the paths to support the global ban asbestos.
We started, the medical professionals started to concern about the hazards of asbestos back in 1984. So they have been pressing the government to put some sort of restriction on the use of asbestos. And we had the first legislation back in 1986, which was actually banning the use of the blue and brown asbestos, but continue to allow the use of the white asbestos in the industrial environment. And then 10 years later, in 1996, the Environmental Protection Department put in a new legislation forbidding the import and use, but continue to allow the use of the white asbestos. Of course, the new legislation actually talk about banning asbestos imports, use, sale, and so on. But of course, because we have been using a lot of asbestos in the past in our buildings, but in general, it is believed that you just leaving the asbestos there will be safer than taking them out. Okay, so theoretically, it should be fine if you keep them locked into the building material. But unfortunately, in Hong Kong, the lifespan of our buildings are short. Okay, so say for example, many of our buildings older than 30 years will get sort of demolished. So in doing so, of course, the asbestos originally locked in the building materials got released.
I think the big difference between European consequences of asbestos use, those, should I say, developed countries, United States, Europe, and Australia and Japan, compared to Thailand, is that these problems will come much later in Thailand than in countries who have used asbestos already a long time earlier. So what you don't see today, you will see 20, 30 or even 50 years later from today. That is a big difference. You don't see the big problems here today in Thailand, while today you are exactly creating those big problems for the future. And that we have very good data internationally, and Thailand figures are very detailed, how many tons of asbestos have been used. And we know that every single ton will cause a trouble of asbestos. Asbestos is not put somewhere in the landfill. It's all that is used almost in the same way in any country. Roofing materials, insulation materials, heat-resistant materials. So we know from the experience of other countries that this much of asbestos will cause that many death cases in Thailand.
So eventually the Thai people have to form a consensus on their own rather than being told by others.
The big obstacle is that you've got some companies that are refusing to change over from asbestos. And I think it's only really one company that's a big problem, from what I'm told. And I suspect that the ownership of that company is not all Thai money. I think you might find Russian money behind some of that.
Yeah.
Because the Russians are very anxious to export asbestos.
No use of asbestos is the best and most efficient way.
We expect beyond that because among ASEAN countries, next year we are going to connect it to be the same ASEAN community. So this important information that we may talk together and we may declare that among ASEAN countries should we have the policy of one ban, all ban, which one country when they realize the hazard, they should communicate and other countries should realize that people in ASEAN is the same people, the same human being. So any kind of hazard that the world already realized, and also in Asia many countries already realize that this is important to have some kind of measurement for the hazard. So this expect to be some measure not only in Thailand but among ASEAN countries, and this will be evident for the global evidence on global ban of asbestos.